Well, happy Sunday evening. It's been a weekend, let me tell you. If you looked at yesterday's video, it said Arizona Adventures Part 1. The intention was, first of all, I should just, before I get into what happened, how are you? How was your day? And tell me about all the wonderful things that happened for you today. And even if they're not so wonderful, because I'm about to tell you about some crazy stuff. Really kind of crazy stuff. Yes, you can see by the background, back at my sister's. She is on her way to Phoenix. I don't think she's actually made it there yet. That too is a story coming. So I hope that you've had a good weekend. I hope that things went well for you. And I hope that you got some rest. I am just out of the shower, so no makeup, just skincare and lip gloss. So I just thought I'd sit down now that everything's calm and just share part 2 of Saturday with you, and then today. So yesterday, like I said, if you watched the video, we went to Lavender Fest in Wilcox, which was really quite nice. I didn't know what to expect. I assumed it would be small. Everything around here, they're all small towns, so everything is small. Wilcox is a small town. The Lavender Festival was small, but so casually elegant. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the venue. The vendors were okay, but the venue, it was really just about that venue. And whether they have a festival there or not, I was going to make sure I take my sister back there. And then it is on the way to the Chiricahua Mountains, which is a hike I've been wanting to do since one of my students told me about it. I'm like, oh, okay, gotta go. And he showed me some pictures and it looks amazing. So definitely gonna make my way back there with my sister for the lavender farm, and probably by myself for the hike because it's summertime. She does not do the heat. Obviously, Jeff doesn't do the heat. PR does not do the heat either. So it'll be me, and that'll be okay. And it'll be us, because I will take you with me. So we did the Lavender Fest, and I'm sure as you saw in the video, you know, Jeff was kind of sitting under this one tent, and we had some pizza, and then we headed back towards home. So the intention for yesterday was going to do the Lavender Fest. My brother-in-law's birthday was on June 2nd, I think. And my sister was out of town, so she was doing a lunch for him at this Korean barbecue place. And we're going to be there for 1. And then one of my students does tap and Polynesian dance, and she gave me tickets to her recital. So I was going to then drop Jeff at home after lunch if he didn't want to go with me, which I don't think he would. And then I was going to go and see her recital. And that ran from probably like 3 to 5. And then it would have been time for me to make dinner, and that would have been a full day. However, the universe has different plans for me. So we did the Lavender Fest in Wilcox, which is like an 1.5-hour drive from where we live. And we got back in the car, and Jeff said he wasn't feeling really well. He was feeling a little nauseous, probably from the heat and eating the pizza, he said, because he ate more than he would want to, he said. So I said, well, just, I'm driving, relax. We made it back to our exit for going to our town. And there's a gas station there called Love's. And their gas is less than anywhere else around. Plus, if you have their app, you get 10 cents a gallon off. So whenever we go anywhere, we always stop there and fill up. We try and plan it so that we fill up on the way and then we top off on the way back. So as per our usual routine, stop to Love's, and Jeff's like, I have to go to the bathroom. I said, okay, no problem. I'll pump the gas, just go. And he went to the bathroom and he got a lottery scratch off, and he came back to the car, and I can't remember what I said to him, but he kind of snapped at me and he's like, I'm having a hard time breathing. I can't breathe. And I'm like, okay, sit down, get in the car, sit down. So he got in the car and sat down, and I looked at him and he just looked really flush. So I got out of the car because I was just getting ready to pull out. I'd finished pumping the gas and everything. I got out of my car, went to the back, popped the hatch. I have towels back there, so I got a hand towel, poured some water on it, came back in the car and put it around the back of his neck, just kind of help him cool off a little bit. It was hot. He doesn't handle the heat real well. It doesn't seem to bother me like it bothers him. I mean, if I'm telling you it's hot, it's probably on fire out there. Okay. If he tells you it's hot, it could be 75. So he doesn't handle the heat like I do. And I put that on, and he got a coin to do his scratch off. And then I was getting ready to put the car in drive, and I turned around, I looked at him, and he was not there. He passed out. He was unconscious. Eyes rolled back in his head lolling down, eyes rolled back, totally unresponsive. So I'm shaking him. I'm like, Jeff, and no response. I'm like, Jeff. Now he has heart problems. He's had triple bypass, so I'm like, not today, buddy. That's all I'm thinking. Not today, not here, not like this. I'm in the driver's seat. So, and he's not responding to me shaking him. So I took my fist and I just pounded him in the chest really hard. I'm like, Jeff, and I'm hitting him in the chest. I am hitting him hard in the chest. And I want to say, while I'm doing that with one hand, I'm dialing 911 on my cell phone with the other hand. And then he started to come to. He was out for about a good minute. And he started to come to. And he's like, what? And I'm like, Jeff, what's going on? Tell me what's happening. And he's like, I can't see anything. And he started coming back as I was dialing 911. They didn't pick up, so I hung up. And I said, come on, wake up, stay with me. And he kept doing one of these numbers. And I said, come on, stay with me, And he kept saying he couldn't see. So he couldn't see anything for about a good, I want to say, maybe 20 seconds. And then he said, okay, I'm starting to be able to see something. And I'm like, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. He's like, I don't know, Rose. And I said, okay. So we're in this little town. It's a little town, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take you to the hospital. Whatever's going on isn't right. You're going directly to the hospital. So I get on the road. We're probably 30 minutes away from the hospital. I get on the road and we're pretty much and the whole time I'm driving, I'm keeping an eye on him, and he's doing this, lolling thing, and I'm like giving him a shake, and I'm like, come on, stay awake. And he wants to do his scratch off. I'm like, dude, this scratch off, it can wait. Okay? Don't worry about it. Maybe it'll mature and become something. Nothing's going to change in it. Just let it be. And every time he would close his eyes, I'm like, no, talk to me, stay with me. And there's, I want to say it's probably 3/4 of the way back to our town. There's a immigration checkpoint. And it's been closed for the longest time because we haven't had any immigration problems, I guess. So it's been unmanned. or it's budget cuts. What do I know? However, when I hit that point, it was a phone call came through, and it was 911 calling me back. And I told them what happened, and I told them where I was going. And I also, told them, I'm like, look, I'm speeding. I don't know if there's anything y'all can do about that, but I'm not stopping if someone wants to pull me over either. And they're like, well, we have a hospital in Benson. I'm like, nope, didn't know you had a hospital in Benson at all. And now we're, closer to Sierra Vista. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to take him there. If you want to call them and let them know we're coming and that's what's happened, that's fine. I don't, what they did after that, I don't know. And she's like, do you want to pull over and I'll send an ambulance? By the time an ambulance would get to us in the middle of nowhere, I'm like, no, I'll probably be to the hospital by the time the ambulance gets here. And she said, okay, if you need us, call. So I hauled ass. As is, the speed limit on this road is 65 and I do 70, so I was probably hitting 90 most of the way. And then we get into town. These little towns, you got to slow down. But I'm still going more over the speed limit, just hoping that I'm not going to get pulled over. And the whole time, my husband is sitting there going, don't speed, it's okay. I'm like, it is not okay. Nothing about this is fucking okay. So I got him to the ER. And they took him in right away. I told them, I got a wheelchair. And there was a lady in a wheelchair. And I navigated around her and around him to go and get a wheelchair. And he's like, ma'am, you have to be a little more careful. There's somebody standing here. I said, I know, I didn't hit anybody. I said, and I have my husband in the car who may be having a heart attack. So I need to get to him. Excuse me. and then took off. And got the wheelchair. There was no way he could walk. Got the wheelchair, got him into the ER, to the intake. She's like, can you sign for him? I said, yes, I can sign for him. So I signed whatever the paperwork was, and he's sitting there, goes, Rose, I'm going to pass out again. And I'm like, no, stay with me. And as he was saying that, somebody came, like an EMT came out, and he's like, are you Jeff? And I said, yes, that's Jeff. And he said, I'm taking him now. And they took him back, got him triaged, answered questions, told them the story. And he was like starting to fade right there in triage. And so they're like, okay, they got all the information they needed in triage. And then they didn't have any rooms. And so we're sitting in the hallway, and he's practically sliding out of his chair. So I put the feet rests up so that he'd have something to brace his feet on. And I stood in front of him for a little bit until he seemed a little more stable, just in case he did slide out of the chair. And while we were sitting there, he broke into this sweat that literally soaked his clothes. I mean, like somebody turned a hose on him, soaked his clothes. And a nurse practitioner came by, and she said, I'm sorry, we don't have any rooms right now. We're trying to move people around, clean up a room for him to get him into a room. She said, I want you to know that we know he's here. We know that this situation is emergent, and that she told me, she goes, I already have all 3 of the doctors on call. Informed of the situation as we know it. We've ordered a CT scan, chest x-ray. They already did an EKG in triage. She said the EKG looked okay. They compared it to the last one they had on file, and there were no changes. So the EKG looked okay. So his heart was okay. She said, but he is not good. You can tell by looking at him. He is not good. We need to find out what's going on. She said, we'll get him in a room as soon as possible. I don't want you to think that we've forgotten about him just because you're sitting out here. I said, thank you very much, which I really did appreciate that. And then he's like, he's sweating to death. And, he's like, is it hot in here? I'm like, no, you're hot. And then it was really shortly after that conversation with the nurse practitioner that someone from transport came and took him for the CT scan and the chest x-ray. And PR was on alert. That girl was not having anything to do with him going anywhere without her, even though I'm there and I'm holding her. So we all trundled off to the CT area together, and I waited outside, and she literally laid outside the door. Like, she was not having this separation nonsense with him at this point. So he had the CT scan. By the time he finished the CT scan, they had a room ready for him. So they put him in the room, got him hooked up to the heart monitor and the oxygen thing and blood pressure, all that stuff. Started him on a bag of fluids. He's thinking it's dehydration, which would make sense. He doesn't drink that much. He says he does, but I think that you need to outdrink me to think, to be drinking. And I never go without my cup, and I am always drinking. And he thinks if he drinks a liter in a day that he's drunk a lot. I'm like, no, you need to drink, 3 to 4 liters a day. And so, yes, he was dehydrated. However, when they got the results of the CT scan back, they found out that 3 of his 4 carotid arteries are very much clogged. One is 90%, one is 60%, one is 50%. So he kept insisting that it's just the dehydration. It's not these clogged arteries. And he's going to be fine. And he did get 2 bags of fluid, and he was feeling much better after 2 bags of fluid. But he was not better. His color did start to come back. He was probably as white and yellow, as white as my shirt with pops of yellow, was his affect. So they decided, first they told him that he could have the option to go home or stay in the hospital. He's certainly, insurance will cover it. This is definitely a situation where insurance would cover it. And then the doctors came in, and two residents, and then the doctor. And let me tell you, there is nothing like seeing modern day medical people to make you feel old. Because I mean to tell you that these doctors, they looked so young. They looked like they were probably in their mid-20s. And look, I work in the medical field. We get nurse practitioner students all of the time. My nurse practitioner students looked older than these doctors. But I have to remind myself, like, we had a DO that worked with us who was a full-fledged doctor, and he looks super young too. So they're all just a bunch of Doogie Housers. And I guess you have to be a certain age to know that. I never watched the show, but I knew the premise. But my God, did they look young. But I also, again, having the benefit of being in the medical field for as long as I have been, between medicine and physical therapy, that I was looking at my toenails, sorry. It's got a chip and I just painted them. But I have the color, so I'll fix it myself. So anyway, having had the benefit of being in the medical field and knowing a fair amount, I could tell by the questions they were asking and their hypothesis that, they knew their stuff. So that set me a little more at ease. But still, my God, did they look young. So they spoke with Jeff, and Jeff was all set to go home. And the nurse practitioner wanted him to stay. But he's like, no, I'll just go home. If you're telling me I can go home and it's safe, then I will. And the doctors came in and they're like, we think you should stay. It is our advice that you stay. So he stayed overnight. They gave him a third bag of IV fluids, and they kept, of course, taking his blood. The first 2 bags of fluids, his numbers weren't where they needed to be. After the 3rd bag of fluids, everything looked good except his magnesium. And they did say with the blood test that they ran that there was no problem with the heart. Like all the levels that have to do with the heart were okay. So that was good. And he kept saying, he's like, my heart's good. I did a stress test 2.5 years ago. And the doctor said I had the heart of a 35-year-old because I did the stress test. I didn't do it chemically. I was on the treadmill and I did it really well. And I kept telling him, your heart is working okay. It's your veins, it's the arteries that the blood is flowing through that isn't allowing the blood to flow properly. This is going to affect, the blood flow getting to all the places it needs to and causing big problems. And the doctors were all sitting there going, yes. Because sometimes, as much as people in the medical field try and dumb it down for us, it's still not enough. And I am not saying by any means that we are stupid as a society or we can't handle information, but it's when it's stuff that you're not used to hearing every day and concepts that you don't deal with on the regular, then you do have to break it down a little more rudimentary. And I do that when I teach. When I teach yoga, I break it down. I make it as absolutely simple to understand as possible. I don't use big muscle words. I tell you where the muscles are. I'll give you their name. But I'm explaining to you where they're at, where they attach, what they do, all of that kind of thing. So, kind of broke it down like that. And the doctors were like, yeah, she's right. This is what we're telling you. So he agreed to stay overnight. I guess the hospital was pretty full. So they said they were trying to move people around. Either the hospital was full or they're very short-staffed and they couldn't handle any more people on the floors that they had nurses on. And I'm kind of willing to bet that that's more of the case than the hospital was actually 100% full. So I stayed there until about 9:30, 10 o'clock last night at the hospital with him. And then I went ahead and I went home, and he still wasn't in a room then. And I called this morning, and he was still not in a room. He spent the night overnight in the ER, but they didn't put him in a hallway. They let him have his room. That was good. So that was our Saturday, Arizona Adventure Part 2. I did call my sister as I was driving him to the hospital to tell her we were not going to make lunch. And then once I got situated with him in his room in the ER and the big testing was done, then I texted my student and told her I'm so sorry, we weren't going to make it. At this point, their recital had already started. But I explained to her, what was going on, and I sent a picture of him in the hospital bed so she didn't think I was making up some wacky story, thinking I didn't want to be there when that was not the case at all. So that was Saturday. That was Arizona Adventure Part 2. So that was that craziness. I woke up this morning. I called him. He was, actually I got up really early and I didn't want to call him that early. So got up this morning. I came to my sister's and she tortured me with a workout. And then I called him as I was leaving here. Oh, excuse me. I called him as I was leaving here. And I remember the last 2 times he was in the hospital. Their food is, to tell you the worst. Their care was so excellent. This hospital gets such shit for their care, but he's had 2 surgeries there and now this ER visit, and to tell you the care was wonderful. Okay. So we haven't had those bad experiences, and I'm very grateful for that. And I feel, medically speaking, that everything was done really well for all of our encounters with this hospital. But the food is atrocious. And hospital food gets a bad rap, but I mean to tell you, horrible. Last night, they finally brought him some dinner, which I am sure was, it was past the dinner hour. So it was probably not fresh out of the kitchen to begin with. And it was chicken. And he opened the box. He goes, "Oh, they brought some food." And I looked at it and I looked over his shoulder. I said, "Oh, it's chicken parm." He goes, "That's not chicken parm." I'm like, "That's chicken parm." I said, "That's a piece of breaded fried chicken." And it was probably oven fried. Because it didn't look deep fried. And I said, "There's a little bit of red sauce on that, and there's cheese on that." And he goes, "That's supposed to be cheese." And it was just the way he said it. He goes, "No fucking way, that's not cheese." I'm like, "Yeah, hon, that's a piece of cheese. I'm pretty sure." And he picked it up and he took a bite out of it. He goes, "That's not any fucking cheese I've ever had." But it was this chicken parm with just plain penne pasta, no sauce, maybe just some olive oil on it. And it was hard. I took a bite of the pasta and it was hard. Not hard, undercooked hard, but hard like it had been sitting for a while hard. And then a mixed veg. And he's like, "Look, I need clothes if I'm going to stay here." I said, "I know." Excuse me. He goes, "So why don't you go home, bring me back some clothes." Gave me a list of everything he wanted. Plus I got some extra. And I said, "Well, I can bring you back food. What do you want?" And he wanted an egg drop wonton mixed soup with house mustard and crispy noodles. So I said, "Okay." So I called this one Chinese restaurant, ordered it for pickup, went home. I took a shower myself because I didn't know how long I was going to be at the hospital. And then got all his stuff together and then picked up his soup, went back to the hospital and gave that to him. Then I don't know how I went backwards, sorry. And then this morning, got up, had my workout, called him. Oh, that's how it was, because we got into this whole thing about how horrible the food is at this hospital. The coffee is worse. And my husband likes his coffee. He needs 2 cups of coffee in the morning. Okay, and he's particular about his coffee, but he's not a she coffee drinker. He just wants good coffee. And he doesn't like Starbucks coffee at all. And don't do anything fancy. Just he wants his coffee with half and half and Splenda. That's all he wants. And I know this. So as I was leaving my sister's house, I called him and I said, "Hey, I don't have time to sit and visit, but I will come and I'm going to stop at McDonald's. I'll get you coffee and then I'm going to bring you coffee and then I got to go to the studio because I've got classes." I said, "Understand that if they discharge you today, you're going to have to wait for me to get there. And the earliest I'm going to get there is going to be like 12 o'clock. He's like, "Yeah, no, I understand." I said, "Okay." And so I get him coffee and I'm like, "Oh, food probably is horrible. Who knows?" So I picked him up just an egg sandwich and his coffee. And I took that. And he said thank you, because where originally he told me no food, that he was fine. I know that he prefers to have oatmeal in the morning, but I'm not going to get oatmeal from McDonald's because he also eats that kind of weird. So I wasn't going to bother with that. Plus we have to watch the sugars and I don't know what they do. Like if they're using regular oats or if they're using an instant oatmeal that has sugar added into it. So I didn't want to chance that. So I just got him the egg sandwich and his coffee. And I told them the way he likes his coffee. Large coffee, 3 Splenda, 4 creamer. He was like, "Oh, thank you so much for the coffee," when I got there. He takes one sip of the coffee. He goes, did they put anything in it? And I said, I told them, 3 Splenda and 4 creamer. And he's like, he takes a taste of it, and he takes the lid off of it, and then he looks at the label, and they had put equal in it. And I said, I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about that. I very clearly said Splenda. And so he said that was okay. Thank you for the coffee. And I gave him a kiss, and I grabbed the dog and took off to go to the studio. Taught my 8:30 class. As I was sitting there waiting for my 10 o'clock students to come, I looked at my phone. I was going to give him a quick call just to check in on him. And I saw there was a text from him saying that he was home, that they discharged him from the ER, and he told them that I wasn't going to be there till about noon. And they said, well, you can wait in the lobby. So he was sitting in the lobby, and somebody that he knows came in and saw him. I feel like I don't know, feels weird. Somebody he knows came in and saw him, and it's a lady he knows, and I guess her daughter had a baby, so she was in the hospital, and that's why she was there. And she said, do you need a ride? And he said yes. So this lady gave him a ride home, and he told me he was going to take a shower. And I called right away, and I said, maybe not so great for you to be in the shower. Can you wait until I get home? He's like, Rose, I feel gross. I need to get a shower now. I'm like, but it's not really wise, because what happens if you fall? I said, I do not want to come home to an unconscious body and blood all over the place. And he's like, I'll be okay. I'll be okay. So he was okay. There was no drama there. And when I got home, he was sitting on the couch, and he was watching TV, and he was all clean, so he felt better. And he was having a cup of coffee that he made for himself in his little coffee maker. So that is that. That's the end of that story. He needs to follow up with his cardiologist, and he needs to make an appointment with a vascular surgeon. He will be on the phone tomorrow, he's got to get in with his VA primary care, and his cardiologist is also through the VA, and then he has to get the referral to the vascular person. So that is what it's on his agenda for tomorrow, to get those appointments taken care of. And I decided that even though he was thinking he's okay, I would stay close to home, and asked him what he wanted for dinner, and he said hamburgers. I'm like, of course you do. You have clogged arteries and you want a hamburger. But I wasn't going to argue with him. And I grilled the burgers, so as much of the grease would drip out of it as possible. So made him a burger for like a late lunch. And then my sister had to leave town, thus I'm here, to go for a business trip. So I was preparing everything to leave, to come here. And I left the house, and I thought, let me stop at Target. Let me stop at Target and see what they've got. Because it was like 4 o'clock. And I stopped at Target, and I went to the bathroom. I'm in the bathroom, my phone rings. It's my sister. I'm like, I'm in the bathroom, I'm not going to answer the phone. And then my husband calls. I'm like, I'm in the bathroom, I'm not going to answer the phone. So I get out of the bathroom, and I call my husband back first, because who the hell knows what's going on with him. And he's like, your sister called, she's broke down, she needs your help. Call her now. I'm like, okay. So I get on the phone with my sister. I'm like, where are you? What's the matter? And she's telling me that she has a flat tire, and that her spare tire is in the garage. And would I go ahead and grab the tire and bring it out to her? Now, she is on Interstate 10. Not too far from our exit, but still probably 15 minutes from the exit that is our exit. Keeping in mind that it's a 30-minute drive from our town to the freeway, and then probably another 15 minutes to where she was. So I'm like, okay, no problem. I hop in the car. She tells me where the tire is. Come to her house. I got to feed the dogs real quick because I don't know how long this is going to take. So I literally throw food at the dogs, grab the tire out of the garage, put it in the back of my car, and head out. So the story is she didn't have her spare tire with her because her Toyota doesn't have space for a spare tire. So she just keeps it in the hatch. But she needed to go somewhere with her dogs over the weekend, so she took the tire out of the car so that she could have the dogs with her, and she just didn't put it back in the car. And then she got a flat on the freeway. My sister is an amazing driver, okay? I know I've told you the story already about her parallel parking, and she has had all kinds of serious defensive driving, like movie kind of driving shit courses that she's taken over the years for her job, for a job she had. So, I mean, she's an excellent driver, which I am very grateful for, because I would have been back in the hospital probably otherwise, because the legal speed limit on Interstate 10 in our area, which you may remember me saying, is 75 miles an hour. So I go 79 miles. I'm always staying under that 5-mile mark, but my sister goes much faster than that. So I'm sure she was booking at about 85, maybe 90, when she had this blowout. So I'm so grateful that she is okay. She made it to the side of the road safely. And I guess she wasn't there very long, and roadside assistance came up. And because she got out of the car, Miss I'll do everything myself she was going to jack up her car, take off the old tire and all that, and roadside assistance comes up and is like, ma'am, can we help you with that? And she turns around and she looks, and these two young men are there, and they're like, we can do this for you. This is what we get paid for. And she's like, okay. So they jacked up the car, they took off the tire, and I had to go to her house, and then I had to come back. So it took almost an hour for all of that to happen. And they stayed there the whole time. They stayed parked behind her car with their emergency flashers on. And when I got there, I took the tire out of the car and I brought it over to her car, and they were like, we're coming, we're going to do this. And then I was like, wow, so nice, so grateful, And I went back to my car. I was going to get them tip money, I was going to give them $10 each. And I went to hand it to him, and the man's like, no, I can't take it. And I'm like, but you're providing this service and we really appreciate it. You don't understand how much we appreciate it. And they're like, no, ma'am, I'm not allowed to take tips. I said, what if I drop it on the ground? And he's like, well, you better pick it up because I can't. And I was like, okay. I said, all I can do is then tell you thank you so very much. And these two young men were wonderful. Because they took the old tire off, they put it in the back of her car for her, they got her jacked up, then they put the new tire on, they tightened it up, they took the jack off, they went through and tightened it again, and they checked it for air to make sure that it was okay. And then told her to drive safe. And I asked her if she wanted to switch cars with me. Did she feel safe driving her car? Because Phoenix is a 3-hour drive. And she said, yeah, I'll be okay. And I said, are you sure? Are you sure you don't want to take my car? I said, it's not a problem. It was just in the shop on Wednesday. It's had its oil change. It's had its tires rotated. Brakes are checked. It's good. The brake fluid's good. This car is good to go. If you want to take it, it is not a problem. We can just switch stuff right now. And she said, she thought about it a little bit, and she goes, well, if one tire was bad, maybe they're all bad because of the way this one tire shredded. And her tires are pretty new. She just got better tires put on her car even. And I say I want to say 6 to 8 months. So she's like, okay. She's, let's just drive up to the next exit though. So we drove up to the next exit, pulled off, swapped all her shit out of my stuff into her stuff into my car. Got a quick lesson on driving an electric car, which isn't much different than my own. And she went off to Phoenix and I came back here. I got here. Dogs were all kinds of excited to see me. They didn't believe that I was staying. And rightfully so, because I have an early morning call tomorrow and realized that when I left, although I did bring my computer, I did not bring a headset. So I had to go back to the house and grab a headset. And then I came back, took a shower. I said, let me catch my friends up on all of the nonsense of the weekend. So there it is. That was my Saturday, Arizona Adventure Part 2, and my Sunday. And I did just get a text come through on the phone about 5 minutes ago that Missy made it to Phoenix and she's checked into her hotel. And I had called her when I got back to her house and just to tell her that I got home and there were no problems with the car. And she's like, she said to me, she goes, you know, Rose, God really does look after me. And I said, well, I think he looks after all of us, but what happened? And she said, you know, you pretty much insisted I take your car. And she said, I hit some of the worst weather I have ever driven in going through Tucson. There was some kind of flash storm that came while she was on the road. She said, your car handled it like it was nothing. She said, it would have been really tough in my car. She said, so thank you again. And I'm glad that, you know, I have someone above looking out for me. So, but she made it to Phoenix just fine. And I have a very early morning call, so I'm probably going to go to sleep shortly here. But I wanted to just check in with you, have our weekend roundup, catch you up on all of the nonsense that happened, and yeah, that's it. And that's more than enough. It's been a weekend. It really has. So that is everything. I hope that your weekend was far less eventful than mine. And I hope that you have a wonderful night's sleep if you're watching this evening, because I will post it tonight, depending on where you're watching from. You may not see it till the morning, and that's okay. But at least you'll be caught up on all of the excitement. And I will talk to you tomorrow. Maybe in the morning, maybe in the afternoon. Not quite sure. But I will be back in touch with you tomorrow. We'll have our check-in, no problem. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful evening, morning, afternoon, whenever it is that you're watching this, from wherever it is that you're watching this. And I will see you very soon. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, share. All the good things help this channel grow. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.